Hello, previously I cleared an area at the top of the plot, and in this video I continue to clear more of this area. This is the area on the map of the allotment which I clear for the beds and the border.
You can see the roots these nettles have, and if you just trim or just pull it, it just breaks off of the soil level and then just grows back from these roots. So you've got to get in and try and get as much of the roots as possible to get rid of nettles. You won't get rid of it all because there will always be little bits that will get left over, and something might come with those, but then you've got less to deal with, and then gradually, year by year, they will die back. This one's got enormous roots, and some of it actually breaks off, and then I dig those up.
As you can see, plants such as bindweed have substantial roots where they store energy and nutrients. As soon as the green growth appears, it starts to store energy in the roots. Pulling them results in them breaking off at the surface and new growth reappears from the roots. This can be an endless game unless you dig up the plants with as much of the roots as possible. You won't get every one, but if you get most, you can make a significant dent in their population.
This bag is now full of, well, half full of leaves, so it's time to put another layer of wood chips on top of it, and that will help rot it down over time. Now I've added a layer of wood chips, not a huge amount, but enough to add a bit more carbon to it. You can see as I pull the weeds out, these things are falling apart, and you can see this is actually, you'll see it better from this angle, actually bends quite a bit. So once the weeds are gone, you can see that it's not that even, so it really does need sorting. It's the weeds that's actually holding things back rather than this wood, so that's a bit of a worry, but I'll have to make the best of it for the moment, and then rebuild this in sort of December, January. Grass, it's really, this stuff is really nasty stuff. Deep roots, and you've really got to get the whole clump. And you can see it's, when it's close to the edges, it's really nasty. It's holding it's actually under the, on both sides. It's both on the one side and on the other side, so it's a bit of a beggar to get at without destroying those retainer bits of wood, but eventually, with perseverance, you can get a massive root ball out. And just shake off all the you can see there's quite a lot of roots that comes up with it, and if I just trimmed it or whatever, cut it, lawnmower, this stuff would just come back. So I've got, doing it this way, I've got most of the viable roots. There might still be the odd bit that will come back, but I can deal with that next year. But it'll be a lot less to deal with than this. As I'm clearing the grass and weeds, I'm sorting things out into different things. All the weeds and grass go into this basket, and then I take it up to the builder's bags where I'm storing. Going to put all these weeds. All this things like comfrey and dock and dandelions, etc., and their roots, I'm going to put into a different tea in one of the barrels, so that gets separated. All the rubbish goes in here. You know, I'm finding all sorts, broken glass mostly, but a lot of plastic and other rubbish as well. Finally, all the nettles are going into this bin, and they're going to be made into nettle tea. When I was taking out that bramble from this bit of the hedge, I had to dig down to get the roots out, and I unearthed a load of pieces of glass just from this one little area. So from that, you know, digging this little hole. So there's a lot of glass down here, so whatever I grow down here is going to have to be a perennial, because I'm not going to be able to dig through this every year with all the glass that's here. So I want something that spreads, but not too much, because obviously I don't want it spreading into the neighbour's allotment, but I don't know. I'll think of something. All of this glass has come out of that little area, so God knows how much is down here. But Karen says there's quite a lot on her side of the fence, so I assume there'll be a lot on this side as well. When I say weeding's like the fourth bridge, I mean this. I've got as far as clearing that, and then back where I started last week, the weeds are starting to come back through again, even though I've come through and pulled the weeds out by the roots. I didn't get everything, and some have started to come back within a couple of weeks. So I'll pick a few more when I'm actually planting, and then some of the rest of it will get wood chipped, so they won't come back. So it will be easier once this is all cleared. There's a few bits of dry grass around, so it's not as bad as it looks.
The builder's bags are filling up nicely. This one is waiting for greens, and the other is going to get topped off with wood chips. I'm covering as much as I can and pulling as many weeds as I can, but obviously there's going to be nettles and brambles coming in from next door. I'm leaving the comfrey in place as I can work around it and harvest it, so I treat it as a crop. There's a big container of nettles and roots that won't go in the compost. I will put this in a separate barrel to make a liquid fertilizer.
Right, I've cleared up this area right down there, so there's about 9 meters or so, which is about a third of the length of the allotment. So that's all been cleared of weeds as much as I can, and I've cleared the hedge. I've put in mints and things, but what I'm going to do is, because there is so much weeds still that just keeps coming through the path, through the wood chips, so what I'm going to do is just cover this with newspaper and plastic and let it lie fallow for a couple of years, and just put some stuff in containers over the top of it, and in a couple of years all the nettles and things should be dead by then, and then I can deal with it and put something, some perennials in here, because there's a lot of broken glass down here, especially around this area, and really don't want to have to deal with that, considering how long it took to dig out the glass from the other end. I really don't want to go in there and start digging glass out. And somebody mentioned asbestos in some of these old ones, so I just really don't want to mess with that. It's because there's an old building there, and there might have been asbestos when there used to be a greenhouse, so I'm not going to do anything. I'll go and dig in there. These will give me the raised beds effect once they've rotted down. So now is a case of marking out the beds and putting fabric down the paths and wood chipping everything and planting in.
I need to move this tub so that I can measure along the ground from the wall of the old greenhouse, putting in pegs to hold the head of the tape measure. The first peg goes in at the 75 centimeters for the half width bed, marking the 50 centimeter path, and so on. I repeat the process on the other end of the beds.
Well, I've started wood chipping the paths in this top area. Now, this first bed, I'm not going to plant anything at the moment, because obviously I'm going to be building this over winter, so there's no point putting anything in there now. But the first path is done, and then I've marked out all the other paths, and I'm going to wood chip those. Hopefully finish that today. There's going to be a few wheelie bins full of wood chips to bring in, but it's a job to be done. This area at the top, I've just put a load of newspaper, cardboard and wood chips around here to cover that area. I'm going around finding cardboard where I can get it, anything that I can find. Here along this edge we've got stones that sort of hold back, because there's a bit of a drop between that fence and between that allotment really and this one, and this little bit has got stones holding it up, and between the stones obviously there's grass and things growing, so the only way to cover that up and stop the weeds getting through again is to sorry, I've got a fly keeps trying to go up my nose. The only way to stop that is to put some plastic and cardboard, and then plastic, and then wood chips. There is the odd plant I want to keep, like this raspberry, but mostly it's things like nettles and dandelions and weeds and rubbish along this hedge, so along this fence, so it's all got to be covered up. And what I'm going to do is just leave it, put some stuff in pots on top of it, and not actually plant anything into this soil over the next couple of years, and that will give plenty of time for the weeds and all the roots and seeds and stuff to die back. And hopefully by the time the wood chips have disintegrated and the cardboard's gone, I can remove the stuff and start planting into it in a couple of years. Along the hedge where we've got the stones, I'm putting cardboard and on top of that putting plastic, and then I'll put some wood chips on top of that, and that should kill off any weeds over the next year or two. When the wood chips are down and I've covered the plastic on top and along the path, you can still see a bit of plastic, but that's not too bad. I can live with that. Well, I've marked out the 3 beds, 3 1.5 meter beds in this top area, plus a 75 centimeter wide bed up against the shed. Now obviously I'm going to be building there over the winter, so I'm not actually going to plant anything into there at the moment, but these 3 beds are ready to go now, so I can plant into them. And I've wood chipped the paths between them, and I've wood chipped, those are 2 bags of all the rubbish, well, weeds. I've wood chipped all along here, along this fence, so this is all done, and it's all layers of cardboard, some plastic and fabric along the paths, so up to that bit there. So I've got up to where the 3 beds are done, and I'm going to leave this bit for a couple of years. Obviously things like the raspberries I've saved, but all the other stuff I've pulled out. So this is going to be left more or less untouched for the next year or two. I'll put some plants on top of it, like got some mint, I think that's, oh that's, I can't remember what it was now. So I'll put some stuff in pots over on this border, and just let all the dandelions and dock and nettles and stuff that was down here, if there's any bits of roots left, it shouldn't come through, and anything that comes through I know it's a weed, I'll pull it out. And then once that's done and they've died off, I can then start putting some good perennials along here. So the 3 beds are ready to go. 2 are going to be brassicas, and the other one I'm not quite sure yet, but I might start getting that ready for winter crops. So I'll put some winter purslane and some winter hardy spring onions and things in there, and the garlic has got to go in as well, so I think one of these beds is going to be for that. So I'm going to put in a 3rd bag. Right, I think it's this lot. And we'll start with some wood chips. Just whack that into the corners. I put a layer of wood chips into the bottom of this, and I made sure it's gone into all the corners, so it should more or less try and keep its shape now as I put the weeds in on top of this. and it's more or less square, and it's right up against the other two. Well, that job took a few days. In the next video I'll just show you some of the other jobs I've done in September. So goodbye for now, and come back soon.